welcome to this explainer. Look, I want to speak directly to you for a second. If you're tuning in right now, there's a really high chance that you are utterly exhausted, yet somehow you're still forcing yourself to show up every single day. You give, you listen, you support, and honestly, you probably feel like you're running entirely on empty. Well, I see you, and your exhaustion is incredibly valid. Today we're going to unpack exactly why that's happening to you. So let's dive right into this.
It's a pretty painful paradox, isn't it? The very traits that make you a successful, genuinely good person, your intense empathy, your loyalty, your high standards, those are often the exact things causing your unseen exhaustion and your hidden isolation. You might literally be the person everyone relies on, but internally, you feel completely disconnected.
Take a moment to just let the emotional weight of Carl Jung's philosophy sink in here. It beautifully validates that quiet pain so many of us carry around. Because the truth is, you can be in a bustling room, surrounded by a massive social network, or even lying right next to a partner in bed, and still feel completely, devastatingly isolated if you can't communicate your deeper emotional truths.
Now, psychology actually shows us there are different types of empathy, and this creates what we call the empath's trap. On one hand, we have emotional empathy. That's when you physically absorb someone else's pain, like actually feeling the heaviness in your own chest. On the other hand is cognitive empathy, and this is the mental ability to understand the root cause of exactly why someone behaves the way they do. And while both are amazing gifts, cognitive empathy has a massive blind spot.
Think about it. How many times have you said to yourself, well, they're only acting this way because they were hurt? Highly empathetic people use their deep cognitive understanding to mentally justify the bad behavior of the people around them. Instead of seeing an angry or critical person, you see someone who had a difficult childhood or who just feels inadequate. You look for the story behind their hurt, and without even realizing it, you start making excuses for them.
And right here, this is the crucial turning point. When we constantly look for the story behind someone's hurtful actions, our greatest strength quietly turns against us. We completely stop asking, hey, is this relationship actually healthy for me? And start asking, how can I understand them more? Empathy stops serving as awareness, and it basically becomes a mechanism for self-abandonment. When you lose that discernment, the fallout is severe. You practically become a magnet for chronic complainers and emotional vampires. You absorb their negative emotions, you defend them when they hurt you, and you completely silence your own needs. You carry their emotional weight until your nervous system is simply fried. Your deep capacity to care actually becomes your most profound vulnerability.
This chronic emotional drain builds into our next psychological paradox, the critical difference between normal, healthy stress and severe, high-functioning burnout. Because listen, when you carry everyone else's emotional baggage for years, the result isn't just having a bad week at the office.
This right here is the productivity paradox. High achievers consistently miss the warning signs of burnout because their drive for achievement forces them to hit deadlines and maintain productivity no matter what. You look highly capable externally, and hey, you're getting validation for it, but internally, you are completely drowning. This creates a really dangerous blind spot where your internal exhaustion remains entirely invisible to everyone else.
Let's walk through these clinical markers, because the difference is staggering. With normal stress, you get some temporary tension or brain fog, and then your body recovers. But look at the burnout column. We are talking about chronic pain, pervasive emotional numbness, and sustained isolation. And here is a shocking reality from the research. Severe burnout actually increases your risk of major depressive disorder by a whopping 15 times.
The number 3 is the absolutely defining timeline here. If a weekend off or a vacation doesn't restore your energy after 3 or more months of these symptoms, it is no longer just stress. At this point, the World Health Organization literally recognizes it as a medical syndrome. It is chronic occupational exhaustion, where you maintain your productivity while being completely emotionally depleted.
So I want you to take a gentle breath and just answer this quick 3-question assessment with me. Ready? 1. Are you getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but still waking up totally exhausted? 2. Has your work or even your caregiving become emotionally distressing or meaningless, replaced by deep cynicism? And 3, do you constantly doubt your own effectiveness even though you're still performing? If you are answering yes to these, it is really time to listen to what your body is trying to tell you. This brings us to the final paradox of this explainer. Why is it that these deeply caring, empathetic, and exhausted people often find themselves surprisingly isolated as they get older? It sounds totally backwards, right? Shouldn't doing the right thing, always being the supportive friend, mean you end up surrounded by love and connection later in life?
Well, psychology tells a really fascinating story here. In midlife, this thing called relationship pruning naturally kicks in. Your tolerance for one-sided, imbalanced relationships just shrinks. You stop pretending to enjoy superficial small talk. Because your high empathy has historically attracted draining individuals, you finally start setting real boundaries, and suddenly a lot of those so-called friends disappear. You aren't doing something wrong, you are just refusing to settle for connections that completely lack emotional truth.
And if you feel alone in this, you are definitely not. Population-based research in Sweden reveals that 1 in 5, 20% of middle-aged and elderly men are completely emotionally isolated. That means they have absolutely no one they can confide in. Emotional isolation is a widespread, hidden epidemic, existing right underneath bustling social networks and busy offices.
But we really need to make a critical distinction here. Loneliness is the excruciating, multidimensional pain of aloneness. It's feeling forgotten, irrelevant, and abandoned. Solitude, on the other hand, is the glory of aloneness. It's the revitalizing, intentional, and incredibly healing choice to step back, get away from the incessant demands of everyone else, and finally care for yourself.
So I want to offer you a powerful reframe. Your current period of isolation, or having a smaller social circle, is not a personal failure. It is actually a necessary byproduct of your growth. You've simply outgrown the noise. It is the quiet, intentional space that forms right before real, mature, and meaningful relationships finally enter your life.
So how do we actually fix the empath's trap and step out of this burnout? The answer is compassionate empathy. This is exactly how mental health professionals care for trauma patients without experiencing compassion fatigue themselves. You recognize the suffering, you genuinely care about it, but you remain totally emotionally grounded. You simply don't let their anxiety become your anxiety.
Discernment is the crucial missing piece of the puzzle here. It allows you to draw a really firm line between understanding someone's trauma and excusing their toxic behavior. You can understand exactly why someone is hurting and still recognize that their behavior is actively damaging to you. Both of those truths can exist at the exact same time.
If you are currently in high-functioning burnout, just downloading a meditation app is not going to cure you. You need the evidence-based 3R approach. First, you must recognize the burnout and stop minimizing how bad it is. Second, you reverse the damage through real, systemic, environmental changes, like drastically reducing workloads and enforcing hard boundaries. And third, you build resilience by clarifying your values and sticking to your limits over a multi-month period. It takes time.
Please hear me clearly on this. You can care without carrying. Setting limits and refusing to absorb the emotional weight of everyone around you is not a selfish act. It is a profoundly wise one. Real compassion absolutely does not require self-sacrifice, and ignoring your own limits usually just creates a whole lot more suffering for everyone involved.
I want to leave you reflecting on this final, pretty provocative thought. It's really time to look at your own boundaries. Are you serving your awareness, or are you just serving your conditioning? It might just be time to stop abandoning yourself, embrace the immense healing power of intentional solitude, and finally start saving a little bit of that boundless empathy for yourself.